welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Monica Godoy, Product Manager for Oracle Apex. And in this session, we will talk about Apex 23.1 and server-side JavaScript to explore the power of GraalVM and MLE. Before starting the session, let me share some exciting news with you. In April and May, we have 4 sessions about what's new in Apex 23.1. All the recordings are now available, and you can find them all together in this playlist, apex.oracle.com/go/office-hours-23.1. Also, this month, we will have 4 sessions for Apex Office Hours. On June 22nd, we will have Apex Office Hours Japan about low-code eSports analytics with Oracle Apex. And the same day, June 22nd, Apex in Portuguese Office Hours will talk about how to version Apex applications using GitHub. On June 25th, we will have a special live from KSCOP 23, Community Power Apex Ideation Exchange. So I encourage everyone to join this session and vote on your favorite ideas. And finally, on June 29, Apex in Spanish will talk about how to load Apex applications to a digital distribution system or service like Play Store. And regarding conferences, KSCOP is almost here, along with the first ever Apex Bootcamp. A number of Apex team members will be there. So if you are near to Colorado, this is a great opportunity to learn, ask questions, meet the Apex team, and of course, have fun. In July, the Oracle Community Yatra 2023 is taking place in several cities of India, and the Apex team will be participating in this event. In July and August, the Lausea Community Tour 2023 is taking place in 9 countries of Latin America. Also, the Apex team will be participating in this event. And lastly, I would like to talk about the Oracle Apex events applications, where you can find more events organized by Oracle and by the Apex community in just one place. So you can install this application, subscribe to get push notifications when we publish a new event. And the most important thing is that you can submit your Apex events. So if you are participating or organizing an Apex event, please submit that information in the application. The shortcut is apex.oracle.com/go/events. And also, we are happy to announce the new Oracle Apex Developer Professional Learning Path. Learn complete application development in detail, especially designed and developed by the Apex team, along with learning the concepts in theory, indulge in practical learning with the hands-on labs. And now you have the Oracle Apex Fundamentals and the Oracle Apex Specialist training. This is perfect for everyone starting to learn Apex. So please go to apex.oracle.com to learn more and enroll for free. The shortcut is apex.oracle.com/go/training. Okay, so now it's time to talk about Apex 23.1 and server-side JavaScript. Let me introduce the team we have today. We have Dr. Lucas Braun, Program Manager for Oracle Labs, Salim Hlayel, Product Manager for Oracle Apex, and Stefan Dobre, Developer for Oracle Apex, who will be answering your questions today. So it's a pleasure to have all of you. Lucas, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Very glad to be here at the office hours. All right. So I guess we'll take it from here. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Monica. And let's go with Apex 23.1 and what it can do for server-side JavaScript, or in other words, to explore the power of GraalVM and MLE. If you don't know yet what MLE is, it's not about a woman called Emily, but it's multilingual engine. And it enables JavaScript in Oracle database as of Oracle 21c, but with a major update in 23c, which is why we are all here today. So let's get into it. You might ask, why JavaScript? We have PL SQL, we have SQL. Why do we need JavaScript? Well, as you probably know, it's a very popular, common purpose, widely used language, which also means like nowadays, fresh graduates, they usually know it. But even if you didn't study, right, college kids, almost everyone knows JavaScript. What is also really cool about it is that there is tons of open source libraries for JavaScript. So on NPM, for instance, you have literally more than 1 million JavaScript modules available at your fingertip. JavaScript also comes with a huge ecosystem for testing, for deployment, for debugging, for monitoring. It's true that, the ecosystem moves fast. So, the tool that you will use for testing or for deployment, those tools might change. But there's tons of tools available. They are well maintained. They're maintained in the community, and you also get your questions answered very quickly on all those Q&A platforms in the internet, like Stack Overflow. All this taken together gives you very fast time to market, which is the same as for low code and Apex in general, right? So this fits in the low code story. And the fast time to market really well. All right, so that's why JavaScript. Now, JavaScript has been introduced, as I mentioned, in Oracle Database 21 already, 21c already. It's powered by multilingual engine, which itself is basically GraalVM in the Oracle Database. GraalVM is a multilingual engine and runtime, also developed within Oracle Labs. And then multilingual engine is the integration of that runtime into Oracle Database. In 21c, the only way to execute JavaScript was ad hoc. So you had to provide basically your JavaScript program as a string, so as a varchar2 or as a CLOB. But it was already back then fully integrated with Apex. So what you see here in the middle, this dbms.eval thing, you didn't really have to write it. All you had to provide was the JavaScript program, and then Apex took care of, creating a context, evaluating stuff in the context, getting rid of the context when no longer used. And you see an example of this on the right-hand side, where you could, even in 21c, write, server-side conditions or processes in JavaScript. And you had this apex.env thingy for getting the page items of an Apex page. So all that worked nicely. However, it was really just ad hoc JavaScript. So if you wanted to persist that code somewhere, you had to maintain it in your own tables somehow. And also JavaScript wasn't really integrated with PL SQL or SQL or with itself. So we were not able to call JavaScript from JavaScript, for instance. So these are all things that we fixed in 23c, and that's what the rest of this presentation should be about. So the future, as in 23c, as you probably know, 23c has been released as a free developer release, but it's not general availability yet, which is why it's still a bit in the future. Everything that you will see today, later on also in the demo, is in this 23.2 free developer release combined with Apex 23.1, which really gives you the very best experience with this new object browser and the integration of JavaScript end to end. And what we really put the focus on in this release is that you can develop entire applications in JavaScript if you want, or you can, very well combine your new JavaScript code with existing PL SQL code, or the other way around. So that was really the focus of this release, also debuggability and all of that. All right, so three key messages. What we want to offer. So we want to persist MLE code, and currently it's JavaScript only, right? We want to persist JavaScript code in the database. The second thing, we want to have a perfect integration with PL SQL and SQL, which should be really seamless. And last but not least, as you probably know, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And Oracle 21c introduced a native JSON data type. Oracle 23c introduces stuff like JSON duality views. So many cool developments in that area. And since it's JavaScript object notation, JavaScript is just a very good fit for processing such data. All right. So we said like we want to integrate JavaScript with PL SQL and SQL. So what this means is that you can call JavaScript from PL SQL or SQL as if it would be just PL SQL. So in this code example here, all the red stuff that you see, like validator.is email or print JSON result, these are all functions that are written in JavaScript. But when calling them from PL SQL, you would not even realize it. So from PL SQL or here in a where clause of a SQL statement, you would not even realize that this is JavaScript. And I will show later how we do this. The other thing is, of course, that you want to do it the other way around. So you will also want to be able to call PL SQL or SQL from JavaScript. And so this, what you see here is JavaScript code, right? And you do that by calling session.execute, which is kind of a short form of importing the SQL driver module, creating a default connection object on it, and then execute it. So with 23C, we also brought you some shortcuts. So you see that it's really easy to run a SQL statement here and then process the resulting rows in it, or also calling a PL SQL function with some bind variables here. And then last but not least, we also want to make JavaScript modules available to other JavaScript code in Oracle database, such that you can import functionality here from this validator module. We want to import the isEmail function and use it in yet another JavaScript function called print email info. So also that is possible with Oracle 23C now. Let me get into a small number of details before we see this in practice. So starting simple, you can write JavaScript stored procedures the same way as PL SQL procedures by kind of giving the JavaScript function body in here, right? So the only thing that is different from a PL SQL function is that you have this as MLE language JavaScript in here. And then you have your JavaScript program, which here is just a one-liner within the Q quotes, right? So basically you have a string, and this can be almost arbitrarily long. So for simple stuff, we suggest you just do that. And what is important to mention here is that JavaScript is case sensitive. So if you have variables, it's a good idea to put them in quotes to be able to use them the same way down here. If you wouldn't, you would have then to write string args here in all uppercase, because PL SQL names are by default all in uppercase. And then, yeah, you see what we do here is like we replace something in this string with a regular expression. And then, so if you call this with hello world, it gets replaced to hello universe. Okay, so that's kind of the hello world JavaScript program. Now, as soon as you want to have modular development and kind of make JavaScript available to other JavaScript or to PL SQL and SQL and all of that, you have this new syntax create or replace MLE module, which is really the equivalent of create PL SQL package. So, you can create a JavaScript module like this using the syntax. And well, you either write this JavaScript code in here yourself, or you just import it from open source, and we'll see this in the demo. And also this create or replace stuff, yeah, you can write this in a SQL Plus session or in SQL commands in Apex, but Apex also has a very nice create MLE module dialog, which, has these three options here, like for uploading a file, source code, or actually just give it a URL. So very handy thing. You don't even have to know JavaScript. You can just use it, right? You just say the module that you want and you just use it. Well, and this is a bit of JavaScript. So in JavaScript, you can have like functions that are just internal to the module like this. And then everything that has this export keyword in front can get exposed later on if you want. And then what is worth mentioning is that in JavaScript, everything is a function, right? But functions that return something would also be functions in PL SQL. And then functions that do not return anything, they would then be exposed as PL SQL procedures, right? So this distinction between function and procedure is something that PL SQL has, JavaScript doesn't. All right. Now, I said we want to be able to just call JavaScript from PL SQL and SQL without even worrying that it's JavaScript. And for this, you can, create these function signatures where you just say this is not a PL SQL function, but it's one that references an MLE module with this name, and you give it a signature to say like which JavaScript function in this module do I have to call. And the same thing basically for procedures down here. And again, you could generate this from open source, or and this is partially supported in database actions, for instance, where it's able to detect the argument names, and then you just have to choose the type and so on. Right, so that's that, and that's how you use it. But again, we will see this in the demo very soon. Last but not least, we want to be able to call JavaScript from JavaScript. And in JavaScript, to import functionality from another module, you would write something like this: import from validator. But this validator here is just a string, it's just a name. So the engine needs to know what module this refers to, right? And in order to tell the engine how to do that, we have a thing called environment, or MLE-env for short. So you do create MLE-env, and you say, you have this import. So the string validator actually maps to a module, in this case called validator mod, but it could be an arbitrary name. So with this, you then build, again, the function signature. You say as MLE module as before, but you also provide the environment, such then when we call this print email info function, MLE does know how to resolve this validator thing in there. Yeah, so that's all you need. And again, just to highlight it, you can write this yourself, or you can generate it from open source. So I guess that's really the bottom line here. If you know JavaScript, great, you can use it. If you don't know JavaScript, great, you can use it. Just use it from open source, and then do the rest in SQL or PL SQL or whatever you like. Right? That's also a question that we often get, is like, will JavaScript replace PL SQL? And the answer is no, right? But it's a nice complement, and gives people the freedom to write stuff in the language they want, or to use modules from open source if they want. All right, and last but not least, the JSON thing. As I said already, JSON and JavaScript are a great match. So you can use these, dot notations, bracket notations on JSON values. You can use built-in JSON functionality like JSON.stringify or JSON.parse. And also, like, if you should have a PL SQL function that creates a JSON value, that's just very natural in JavaScript, because it's just this JavaScript object as you see down here. So to conclude, before we move on to the demo, this 23C release, in conjunction with Apex 23.1, gives you these MLE modules, which are there to persist JavaScript code in the database, so in the database dictionary eventually. We have MLE environments, or MLE-envs for short, that help you resolve JavaScript code if you want to use it from other JavaScript code, or also actually in a function signature, in a PL SQL function signature. And JSON and JavaScript are just a match made in heaven, right? They work very well together, and that's why we support this like this. That concludes my part of the talk, and I'm very happy to hand it over to Salim for the demo.
Thank you very much. And this will tell us how we can use actually MLE with Apex today. No, so before you start using MLE code, whether it's JavaScript or in the future other languages, you need to grant some of the privileges. So for example, MLE privilege, script, and dynamic MLE to your schema. Now that's one way of doing it. The other way in 23C, you can actually grant the DB developer role to your schema. So instead of every individual grant, you just take that role and grant it to your schema. But what could be better, actually, if you created that schema from within the Apex builder, because the moment you do that, then all this is taken care for you. We do it at the background, so you don't have to do it yourself. So if you create a workspace and a schema from Apex, then all these roles or privileges will be assigned to your schema automatically. Another part when it comes to MLE integration with Apex is we have enhanced the object browser heavily on 23C, if you have 23.1, sorry. And if you haven't seen it, you should. And you'll be able to easily create modules by either uploading the file, as Lucas said, or inline code, or newly in 23.1, using just a URL to that JavaScript module. All what you need to do is just put the URL, give it a name, and then import that module. You'll be also able to create an environment so you can group all your modules together so they can talk to each other. And then you can assign that environment to your Apex application so you can have access to the modules assigned to that MLE environment. You can actually test those modules in the SQL commands and specify the environment that you would like. So you could have multiple environments, and each environment has different group of modules assigned to it. Now, in Apex application, where you can use MLE code, it's supported in so many places, in computations, in validations, any processes, as well as in execute server-side code dynamic action. Also, if you have a dynamic region, dynamic content region, you can also put there MLE code, so you either PL SQL or MLE. But in order, as I said, to be able to use the MLE code inside your Apex application, you have to navigate to the shared components and to go to the security attributes. And under the database session, you have to set the MLE environment that you would like to use for that particular application. We're going to see actually this in the demo as part of the demo. Okay, so we have few APIs in Apex that will make utilizing MLE code a bit easier. So for example, we use apex.env to read and write session state values from your MLE code. And we also have apex.con to execute SQL from within JavaScript. Now you have to note that importing JavaScript modules will be a little bit different inside the JavaScript module itself compared to Apex and SQL commands. So in JavaScript modules, they are static imports. So you just say import star as X from Y. While in SQL commands and in Apex, we use actually dynamic imports. So we use the await operator and that or await keyword, and that will actually load your module inside your Apex and make it available for you. Now, because we have top level await, so you don't have actually to write complicated code. We make it easier for you in Apex. So things like async, you don't have to write that with all these brackets. So simply just write const x equal await and import your module or library. So we come to the hot part, I guess, which is the demo, right? So let's see it in action. Let's see what we can do. And let me share my browser. Hope you can see my browser. And what I will be doing here, I'll be creating an app, and I will be trying to use some MLE code and SQL commands. And then I will try to use some MLE code inside the Apex application just created. So let's start by creating the app first. So it's going to be a new app totally from a file and based on the project and tasks sample dataset. Let me hit next. And it's going to ask me where do I need to save this. So project underscore tasks. Let me load that. And in no time, I have that table. And now I can create my application. So let me create the application on top of that table. Now, by the way, just to clarify how I'm using now 23C database, I'm using the free developer edition. So I downloaded the VirtualBox appliance. And whatever you see here, this is Apex installed on that appliance. Now, by default, it comes with 22.2. So I just upgraded it to the latest, to 23.1. And there you go. And at the end of today's session, you will be also having a link how to repeat every single step you have seen in the demo today. Okay, so I'm going to select all the features here and just hit create application. And now looking at this data set, by the way, it's the common data set that we usually use where you have different tasks and different projects. And let's think of one of the requirements. If I run this application now, and I look at project task report here, you see that you have a start date and you have an end date and you have a status for every single task you have in the table, right? And the requirement is, I would like to extend the end date, but I want to be a little bit careful, so I don't extend the end date for the tasks where the status is closed. So I don't care about those tasks. It has to be a non-closed status task, right? And the second requirement, that your colleague is going to do this, and he's going to do it in JavaScript. So they don't know PL SQL, so you have to teach them how to do it in JavaScript inside of Apex. So we're going to see how we can do that. But before that, let me do a little bit of cleanup here. So let me remove the project column from here. And let me persist that. So let's make it a primary report. And let me go to the page and add an item for the project that I just removed. So I'll create a region, make it at the top. I'll call it project. And I'll just select the template to be blank with attributes. And then I'll create a page item. I'll call it P4 project. And it's going to be a select list. Now, if I go down here, it's going to be a SQL query. So that SQL query will allow me to do some cleanup for the application. So let me copy and paste. So simply, I'm just selecting the project as a display and as a return from the same table that I just created. Let's make sure that everything is working. And I would like also to be able to filter whatever tasks you have there based on the item that it will appear here when I add it, when I save. So I'll have a where statement. I'll make sure that where my project equal to P4 project. That's the item that I just created, right? Now, because I'm using this in my where statement, I have to make sure that the server understands the value of that item. So I'm going to submit it to the server. And I would like to have an action on my project when it does change. So on change, I would like to refresh. And I'm going to refresh which? I'm going to refresh actually the region, which is project tasks. Now, if I save and run, what happens is I have a list of projects here. I can select, for example, the email integration. So now I can see I have a better vision for the tasks of that particular project. So I can see easily if my logic is working. Now I want to extend the end date for only these couple of tasks. These are closed, so they shouldn't be extended. And these are the only ones that should be extended. But before doing that, let's move a little bit to the workshop here and go to the SQL command and open my SQL command and see if I can actually do that today from outside Apex using the dbms_MLE package. And the idea here, just let's not concentrate about the JavaScript code in here. So the PL SQL code, this is a PL SQL code, right? So I have a context handle, and then I have some kind of code assigned to this variable here. And then I have a PL SQL execution code where I create a context and execute that code in JavaScript here. And I'm passing a value to the DBMS MLE to understand that this is JavaScript, right? Because in the future, we will have other languages as well, right? And then when I'm done with that context, I'm just going to drop it, right? And if you dig deeper a little bit inside the JavaScript code, it actually uses what Lucas told us about, which is the session.execute. So I'm going to use that to do a select statement with the database and get the ID and the status from all the project tasks where the project, I'm doing a testing, so I'm just limiting that to email integration currently, all right? And if I do have values, then result.rows.length will be equal, more than 0, and then I can iterate over my rows. And now what I'm doing is I'm calling a JavaScript function that resides in the same code block here, where it will check for every status and make sure that it's only closed. Now, somebody might say, why don't you just put it in the where statement? Well, intentionally, we did this so I can show you how you can actually call another JavaScript function in the same block, right? So it's going to go there, check it. If it's closed, then return true. If it's false, then it's false. And then you can only update, do another session execute, only update those projects that the status is actually not closed, right? So if I run this now, before running it, if I run whatever I have today in that table, you see that it's 24th of April, and this one is 25th of May, right? So if I run the code, it says, well, a couple of tasks have been extended successfully. So let's see the code now. And let's make sure that they have been extended. So 25th and 26th, right? So let's run it again. So 26 and 27. So we keep adding one extra day. We are extending the end date only for those tasks where the status is not actually closed, right? So we're doing this using PL SQL. So that's cool. So you're switching the context from PL SQL, you're running JavaScript code, and then you're coming back to PL SQL and then dropping that context, right? What we can do more is actually do it in pure JavaScript by moving to MLE JavaScript here. So this code is similar to the previous one. The difference is in here, we use the apex.con execute. So we're making it much simpler, much easier to read and probably to debug. And we're passing a parameter here for the project. So we are limiting only that particular project for our testing. And if I do execute now, this code, which is an MLE, all these context handling for the DBMS underscore MLE is not needed anymore because Apex will take care of that. So I should assume that if I run it, it should actually extend those end dates for me. So let's see. If I go back to that select statement now and run it. Whoops, sure, because it's JavaScript. So 27 and 28. So we have extended it by one date. That's cool. So, but this is from SQL command. I want to do it from within Apex. So let's move a little bit more into inside the Apex itself and come back to my Apex application. And what I will be wanting to do probably is add a button here. When I click that button, then it will execute a code. And in this time, I'm not going to hard code the project. So I will depend on whatever value I have in P4 underscore project. So let's do that. So let me go to the page designer here. Let me go to the project tasks, add a button, give it a name. So extend project tasks probably. And then that will be submitting my code. And now extend task. And I should be able now to select. Now, notice that I'm selecting the JavaScript MLE. And now I'm putting the code. It's similar to the one that I ran from the SQL command, but the difference is I'm using the apex.env.p4 project. So I'm referencing my current item that represents the current project that I'm selecting in JavaScript, right? So if I hit OK now, what will happen is this will submit the page, and this should allow me, probably if I put it here better, so it's in the next, right to the interactive report search bar. And if I run now, and if I'm lucky enough, let's extend now. So look at this. So I have 27, 28, and if I run, so it's 28 and 29. So I did extend this from within Apex, and it's dynamic. So if I choose another project, if we have an open task over there and I extend, it's 20, it's extended by 1 day, it's 21, and it will only extend that particular task, right? Going back to the email integration. And let's do some more stuff here. Let's do a validation. Let's try to validate using JavaScript code instead of validating using PL SQL, because now we know that this colleague of ours that who will be working on the project doesn't know PL SQL that much, but he knows the JavaScript and he would like to do that in JavaScript. So let's say, let's look at this form, for instance, and let's say that the requirement is you don't want people to be able to change the assigned to column if the status is closed, because it's already closed. That task is already closed. Don't change the assigned to. That will be only applicable to any task where the status is not closed. So let's go to that form. And let's see if I go to the assigned to and right click and create a validation. And let's say that we call this status must not be closed. Let's call it that way, right? And in my MLE, in my JavaScript code, what I will write a simple JavaScript expression. So again, I'm referencing the P5 status to make sure that the status does not equal closed, because if it does, then there is no point of updating the assigned to. I don't want to change. I want to preserve the last person who was actually working on that closed task. So let me do it. And I'll put an error message. So let's say that status or status is closed. You can't update the assigned to. Let's do that. Let's save it. And let me close the form, open it again, open one of those closed forms here. And let's say that I would like to hijack that and just put it under my name. And let me try to save, and it will not allow me. And I'm doing that again with JavaScript code. Now, if I do it for an open task, I should be able to, I guess. So yes, so there you go. That's my name. Perfect. Cool. So what we can do more is I want to use modules. So as Lucas said, there are plenty of open source modules in the internet, and you can actually use those modules to your advantage. So you can import a JavaScript module inside your environment in Apex, and you can utilize that module to do some of the functionalities. So for instance, this colleague of ours has been asked to validate that the email field. So if you look at this form here, there is no email, right? So, but let's say that there is an email field, which we will be creating in a minute. Then we would like to make sure that the email value is validated. So you don't write rubbish there. So it has to be a valid email. So in order to do that, let's go to SQL commands. It's clear over here. And what we will do is we will extend our project tasks, and we will be adding 3 columns. So we will add email. So we will import a module to validate the email. We will add a URL column. And based on that URL column, I should be able to also import another module, which is the QR code, to generate a QR code for that URL. So let's say that there is an important URL that you would like to attach to that task in particular, and you want to create a QR code so people can actually, scan the code and know what's the important URL that you have over there. The third module that we are going also to import is converting markdown syntax into HTML. And in order to do that, there is a JavaScript module called marked, where we're going to import it, and we're going to see how we can actually put some project details in Markdown and then convert that into HTML, right? So all these 3 modules. So let's execute that. Now, if I go back to my page designer and refresh or synchronize my page items, so I will be able to see the 3 new added columns as page items that will be referenced to the same table, right? And what I need to do now, maybe I can do some cosmetics, because now this looks a little bit ugly. So many items, They are on top of each other. So probably I can go to the project task form, and instead of blank with attribute, let's make it tabs container. And I will create a subregion or a tab, and I will call the first tab main. I'll make sure that it's blank with attributes as a template. And I can duplicate this and duplicate it again. So I have 3 regions, and I will call this QR code. Sorry. And this one markdown. All right. So what I want to do is let's select those items here and move them underneath the main. And for the email, oh, I can do actually, and do that here as well. And for the URL here, I'll put it in the QR code, and for the project details, I'll put it under markdown. Now, end date, if I look at the layout, again, I can do a little bit some more cosmetics here. So this shouldn't be on its own line. So I'll just disable a new row. And then probably the status can be after the task name, and again, next to it. And then I can go to the budget and again say it's next to the cost, and the email can be next to the assigned to, right? So let me save. And now if I run my form now, so I have 3 tabs and it looks much clearer. Let's import the modules and assign them and use them here. So in order to import the modules, I will go to the object browser, and I will go to a place called create or MLE modules JavaScript, and right click on that and create or import my first module. So all what I need to do is just select the URL. So just point to this URL and call this validator. So this is where I can use that module to validate if an email is a valid email or not. So let me create the first module, create another one, but this time I'm going to use the QR code module, and I'm going to call this QR code. And then lastly, I will be adding the markdown library. So markdown module will allow me to convert my markdown details into HTML as per the requirement I got, right? Now, in order to use these 3 modules, I need to create an environment. So let's create an MLE environment. I'm going to call this test for now. And if I go to my test environment, I should be able to add in all these modules and import to them. Like I'll add all these imports. So marked. And let's add the second code. And then finally, the third one, the validator. So I have now all of them. Does it mean that I can still use it, or I can now use it in my Apex application? Not really. I still need to do something in my Apex application. So I need to go to the shared components, and I should be able to go to the definitions here and navigate to the security, and then go to the database session and make sure that the MLE environment test is actually included here, and you do the apply. So now I'm ready to use my newly JavaScript modules that I have just imported. And it took me really just a few minutes to import all these modules, right? Now, let me go here. And what I will be doing is I want to validate the email. So if I go to page 5 and I go to the email page item, I can now add a validation. Should be valid email. This is how I call it. And then it's a simple one-liner. So I'm using a wait import validator. And then based on that, actually, when it's loading, I will be able to use the is email, which is part of the default export of that module. And I'm validating as an input, I'm putting P5 email for that form. So let's see if that works or not. And if there is an error, so it must be a valid email. That's my message. Whoops. Okay, so now if I close this and I'll open it again, and if I put anything here and I'll try to apply, it doesn't work because it's actually, it requires to be that field to be a valid email. And I'm using the module that I imported to do that validation for me. So it has to be something like test.test, I don't know, something like that. So now it's validated. It's actually allowing me to save. Now let's move on and use the other library. But in order to use the QR, I'm going to create a QR page item in here. And this page item will be actually of the type display image. And I'll remove the label, and I'll make sure that actually it's based on, oh, it should be in the settings. Yep. It's based on an image URL stored in page item value. All right. I'm going to add also a button here so I can execute or call the code to actually generate the QR code based on whatever value I put in P5 underscore URL. So let's call this generate QR code button and make it simpler. So it's QR code, and I'll just put it in the next position. Probably make it hot, I don't know, and I'll make it simple. All right. So now when I click on this, it will submit the form, but we need to create a process, right? So let's create a process, and I'll call this QR code. And what I will be doing is putting some code here. And if you look at this code, it's quite easy to understand. What you're doing is you're importing, again, using dynamic import, the QR code module. And then you are utilizing the QR code to actually add the data of the P5 URL, and then creating the data and submitting it back to the newly created image page item. So simple JavaScript code. And now I can limit this only to be executed when I click on the generate QR code. Now, because this will do an update, so there is a behavior here in the database. Actually, I need to make sure that I'm telling server that it's going to do a SQL update. So let me save, and let me go here, go to the QR, and say, for example, apex.oracle.com, and generate the code. Go here, and there you go. So you have now your QR code generated based on a JavaScript module inside of Apex. Cool. So let's do the last one. And the last one is, I'm going to actually duplicate this button. And instead of generate, I'll just gonna call it convert to HTML, right? And move it in here. So it's part of the Markdown tab. All right. And what I need to be able to do here is I want to make sure that whatever values I have in this project details field in Markdown, I needed to be able to actually convert it to HTML. So let me create a page item here to display the HTML. So create a page item. And that page item, I'm going to call it project details HTML. So, and it's going to be display only. All right. And now what I will do is I'll create another process. I'll call this convert. Again, it's going to be an MLE in JavaScript. And the code that will be executed here will actually be doing this. It will use the marked module, and it will take the project details, so whatever markdown you have there, and convert that into HTML and put it in project details underscore HTML. So if I save, but before saving, maybe I would like to make sure that this will only run when I hit the convert button. So let me save it. Let me open the form again. And let me go to the markdown and put some sample markdown there. So if I click now convert to HTML, and if I'm lucky, I have HTML generated. So that whole process by importing 3 modules and using JavaScript inside of Apex, it seems that it worked quite well. And this opens the door for the developers who don't know PL SQL. There are maybe fresh graduates to be part of the Apex project and contribute and be an active member. That concludes actually my demo. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So probably we can take some of the Q&A, Monica.
Yes, sure. Lucas is sharing the shortcuts here. You want to say something, Lucas?
No, just showing them. I mean, I think you posted them to the chat, and I just wanted to encourage everyone to check out those things, right? So on the left, we have the JavaScript Developers Guide, which is basically a new documentation book for Oracle Database 23c. It's not only documentation, but it's actually a lot of JavaScript examples as well. So you can really use this as a good starting point to learn about JavaScript in Oracle Database. It doesn't cover the Apex angle though. So for the Apex angle, I really encourage you to, well, rewatch this session once it's on YouTube, but on the very right, you also see Salim's live lab, where all of the stuff he just showed is explained step by step. And you can go and do it yourself and start playing around. And then in the middle, we also have 2 blog posts who talk about some concrete examples for JavaScript in the database.
Okay, we have a couple of questions about the roadmap. So I think this question is for you, Lucas. How does the roadmap for JavaScript in Apex looks like?
Let me take that, Monica, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So yeah, we're actually we're gonna update our documentation to have more code snippets and more information about MLE in Apex. Hopefully, we will have also sample application in the future that has or show the power of MLE. We will also have an updated live lab. So whatever you have seen today and the link to the to the lab in this slide, it's based on one option only. So you have to download the virtual appliance, which has the 23c, the free developer edition, and then upgrade your Apex to 23.1, and then work on the MLE and the steps of the lab. So in the future, what we will be having is we should have a reserved environment in live labs. And we're going to announce this. So if you follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, you will know about it. And you will be able to actually provision a whole virtual machine on our cloud, on Live Labs cloud. And you can go to that machine. So you don't have to download the virtual appliance. And it should have all stuff that you needed. So you don't have to actually upgrade Apex. You don't have to do most of the stuff that we need to do actually to do this lab. We're also planning to have some features for MLE in the future. So we do want Apex to offer a global Apex environment. So some kind of helper modules, and it's going to be in JavaScript. So something to complement whatever we have today in PL SQL. So this allows developers in JavaScript to utilize the same functionality that we have today or we offer today for in PL SQL. And we would love, hopefully, in the future to have tighter integration, probably with the plugin infrastructure. So how cool it will be if you can write a full plugin in the future, hopefully, using JavaScript only instead of just PL SQL. So if you are a JavaScript developer and you would like to create a server-side plugin in JavaScript, probably that could be in the future. So not promising, but it's something on the we're planning of, and we're thinking about all these ideas. So smaller things like better autocomplete for modules, where you can write your code and it will give you suggestions on the name of the modules you already have, and hopefully also to cover the few areas that we don't have MLE support currently in Apex, like for example the save process of interactive grid, which is currently only in PL SQL. So hopefully in the future maybe we can have it also in MLE. So basically, we're trying our best wherever there is a PL SQL code, then hopefully we can also have it in MLE and everywhere in Apex. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for the roadmap.
To add up on that, or maybe you mentioned it, but there MLE in 23C also comes with a debugging feature, right? And I guess that is also somewhere on the roadmap to integrate with a debugging feature, such that you can, record program state of your program that runs at certain points in time, and then kind of replay that later and see in which line of your code what were the variable values and stuff like that.
Okay.
We also got asked. We also got asked, what's the next MLE language? And here the answer is very simple. We would like to hear from you, right? What language you would like to see next, and maybe also what use cases. So we saw in the chat that people want Python, preferably like with some library support. Didn't see any explicit mentions of libraries, but like that is something that we would really like to hear from you. So feel free to put more desired languages and use cases into the chat. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I see some messages about Python, and also we have one question about, is MLE going to cover other languages? So say Python in the future, and I think this question is better if you can answer what will be the language you will like to have in MLE, right, Lucas?
Exactly. I mean, it's called MLE for a reason, right? It is multilingual engine, and right now it's only JavaScript. And of course, like what we really want to do and plan to do is to add more languages, right? But which is the next language, or which languages will be next? That is still to be kind of determined, and that's why, yeah, we are really grateful for any feedback from the Apex community here, which language they would like to see and like why. So reach out to us and let us know, and you will be able to kind of help us shape the language roadmap here.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
It's a great and very useful session for everyone. I just have one remaining question is, will JavaScript replace PLSQL in Apex at some point? What do you think?
No,
I don't think so.
No, not at all. Actually, it's the whole idea of MLE is giving our customers options. So if you don't know PL SQL, if you are a fresh graduate, if all what you know is JavaScript, if you have some modules written in JavaScript and you would like to utilize those modules, you can do it now with MLE. So PL SQL is not going to go anywhere, and it's the first supported and the top supported language for Apex for sure. It will stay. Has been always like that, and it will stay like that.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I think we covered the majority of the questions. If you have any other questions about MLE or Apex, please go to apex.oracle.com/forum so we can answer those questions. And the session was recorded today, and it will be available in a couple of days, all right? Along with the chat and the questions that you post today. Okay, I wish you a very good day today, and thank you so much for the speakers. Also, thanks to Marin and Stefan for joining us today and help with the Q&A. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.